A couple checks their super balance properly for the first time in a while. They've been working hard, earning decent money, but the number staring back at them from the screen looks a lot smaller than they expected. They weren't being careless, they were just busy. New suburb, new job, new family, new country. Super was one of those things that happened automatically in the background, and in fairness, something was happening. The employer paid in, the fund invested it, life moved forward. But here's the thing that keeps coming up. If super is automatic, if the employer always contributes, why does the age you start actually matter so much? Isn't it all going to the same place eventually? Think of two snowballs on the same hill. Both are rolling in the same direction. Both pick up the same snow per, but the one that started earlier is dramatically larger by the time it reaches the bottom. That's compound growth. And that's the super problem in one picture. On the same salary, receiving the same employer contributions, with the same investment return, someone who starts Australian Super at 22 could retire with roughly $1.2 million more than someone who starts at 35. Same income, 13 fewer years in the system. That's the gap. The person who ends up with more didn't work harder. They didn't earn more. They simply owned more time inside the system. And time in super does something that a higher salary on its own cannot replicate. Here's why it feels unfair. Compounding doesn't grow in a straight line. It starts slow and then accelerates. Early money has time to earn returns on its returns. Later money never catches up to early money's head start, even if you add more of it. You can change your super fund, you can cut your fees, you can boost your contributions. What you cannot do is go back and start earlier. That's the only thing money genuinely cannot buy in this system, and that's exactly why the timing question matters so much. The story doesn't end at the gap. Late starters have real options. Some of them are surprisingly effective, especially if you arrived in Australia mid-career, took time off for family, or are just now paying proper attention to super for the first time. The first option is passive. You trust the employer contribution to do its work. You don't add anything extra. On a typical full-time salary starting at 35, this still builds to a meaningful balance by the time you reach 67. That's not a bad outcome. For some homeowners with low debts, it may be enough, but it leaves very little cushion for a career break, a health issue, a year of lower income. And for a late starter, passive super alone rarely closes the gap that the calendar created. The second option adds a small extra contribution before tax. You redirect a little of your salary into super instead of taking it as take-home pay. It costs less than it sounds, because money inside super is generally taxed at a lower rate than the same income taken as wages. Adding around $5,000 a year in extra contributions from age 35 can meaningfully lift the retirement balance compared to doing nothing extra. That's not a small thing. That's the difference between feeling comfortable and feeling stretched in your final working years. So here's a question worth sitting with privately. Does your household have room in the budget for even a small extra super contribution right now, or is cash flow too stretched for that at the moment? Because that answer changes which path actually fits your life. The third option is more deliberate. Using the full available space in the pre-tax contributions cap after the employer contribution is already counted can push a late start retirement projection much closer to what an earlier starter might have reached. It requires cash flow, but the tax treatment makes it one of the most efficient savings strategies available. There's also a rule most people haven't heard of. If your super balance was under a certain threshold at the end of last financial year, the ATO may allow you to use unused contribution cap space from the previous 5 years. For late starters, migrants, and parents returning to work, this can be a meaningful extra option. But here's where the decision gets split for a lot of households. Super is locked away until preservation age. If you're in your mid-30s and still saving for a home deposit, putting everything into super can leave you cash poor today. Not every spare dollar should go in. For a renter in their 30s, flexibility for a future home purchase might matter more right now than locking extra cash inside Super. For a homeowner who already has an emergency buffer and a mortgage salary sacrifice into Super starts looking much more attractive. Same age, very different priorities. Here's the first hidden trap. Many Australians, especially people who had several jobs or arrived from overseas, have more than one Super account. Each one quietly charges fees. Each one may be paying for insurance you already have elsewhere. The erosion is slow, but it compounds in the wrong direction. The second trap is the default investment option. Many super funds place new members into a balanced or conservative setting. That's appropriate close to retirement. But for someone starting at 35 with over 30 years still ahead, a higher growth option may have delivered significantly more over that. The third trap is automatic insurance premiums deducted inside super life cover income protection. These can be genuinely useful. But if you have multiple accounts or cover you already hold elsewhere, those premiums quietly reduce your balance month after month without you noticing. For someone who leaves it until 40 before taking super seriously, the remaining runway gets noticeably shorter. There's still time to make real improvements, but there's less room for passivity, job gaps, or overlooked fees. Every year of deliberate action matters more at this stage. The emotional trap is comparing yourself to someone whose starting point was never yours. If you arrived in Australia in your 30s, you didn't fall behind, you simply started when you arrived. The useful question isn't what if I'd started earlier? It's what's the most effective thing I can do from here? The first move costs nothing and takes about 5 minutes. Log into navigate to the Super section, and see how many accounts are linked to your tax file number. This one check tells you more about your retirement picture than anything else on this list. If you have more than one account, consider consolidating, but check what insurance cover you'd lose before closing anything. Then look at the fees you're paying and the investment option you're in. These two adjustments cost nothing and can make a meaningful difference over a long time horizon. If your cash flow allows it, ask your payroll team how to set up salary sacrifice. Even a modest weekly amount gets the extra stream advantage working for you. The before-tax treatment means it costs less from your take-home than the same amount put in after tax. And for anyone who needs access to money before retirement, a home deposit, a career change, unexpected family costs, a parallel investment habit outside super matters too. An accessible investment account gives you the flexibility that super deliberately does not. Here's the blueprint written plainly. 1. Check how many super accounts you have in My. 2. Consolidate carefully insurance first. 3. Check your investment option against your age and timeline. 4. Ask payroll about salary sacrifice, even small amounts compound. 5. Start a simple outside investment habit for goals before retirement age. The worst time to start isn't 35 or 40. The worst time is the one where you keep deciding to deal with it later. Wherever today finds you, that's your real starting point. Work with it deliberately, and it will work harder than passivity ever could.